Welcome to the second devlog of my indie city builder game Forge and the story of how I fixed it from being unplayable. In the last devlog, I already showed you guys the basic idea of the game, but since then so much has changed. After the first devlog, I faced a big problem with my game. It wasn't playable, and that's very important for a game. There was no real game loop, you couldn't win or lose, and there was no reason to play. But now, nearly 3 months later, the game is finally playable and it's getting close to release. More on that later. To fix the game not being able to be played, we needed a win condition. There were multiple options. When the player loses to enemies, they lose everything and have to start over again, like a roguelike. But I didn't want the player to play over and over each time. I might make that an independent game mode or something though. Second, find something else the player can lose against, but I couldn't figure out anything reasonable, so that wasn't the way either. And third, make it a normal city builder. When the player loses to enemies, they get a setback, but not everything is lost. I personally liked option 3 the most, so I went with that. First of all, I had to implement enemies and proper soldiers. In the last devlog, I showed the first version of the soldiers that you could move around by going into army mode, meaning you can only move troops around. This mode still exists, but a button has been moved to the left and now has a visual feedback for entering and exiting, because I always forgot in which mode I was. The enemies were fast forwarded from there. I made them red and gave them code to find the closest building to attack. To make the soldiers and enemies fight, both check every frame to see if there's an enemy in a certain range to attack. This makes moving soldiers around important even during attacks, because all enemies spawn at roughly the same position, but you spread your soldiers around your base at first. But this brought up the next problems. What happens when a building is destroyed? What happens if you lose a soldier? And what happens if every building gets destroyed? So first I played the game myself and lost after 26 days, and that's pretty bad. So I made the following decisions. When a building is destroyed, you will have to repair it. If you lose a soldier, they respawn after the invasion, making the barracks not useless at some point. If the rocket, the main building of the game, is destroyed, you lose the invasion and lose a big cut of your money. To make the world feel more alive, I also added NPCs. These NPCs randomly wander around the island and basically do nothing. Because they looked exactly like soldiers, I added an orange outline to the soldiers, making them look like they have gear. I also added animations to the NPCs, soldiers and enemies. NPCs spawn with every building that provides people, and if that building is destroyed, they die too. They also made the money problem much smaller. In the first devlog, the problem was that the player could earn money too quickly, even by just spamming the next day button. This has now been resolved thanks to invasions grabbing more money, slower player progression and more events each day. I worked further on the main mechanic, building. It's the core mechanic of the game, so it should be the most polished. I replaced the cursor with better looking ones. They have some shader problems, but that will be fixed soon. I also added sound effects for entering new tiles and for clicking on them, improving the experience. The sound effects are buffered to prevent overlapping and make the game more enjoyable to interact with. Oh, and I've made my own soundtracks. And here's the second one. I will probably make more in the future too, but that's it for now. Coming back to buildings though, I added so many new buildings, in fact one almost every day. One of the greatest advancements is the progress system. You already know that buildings can break and need to be repaired for a small fee, but where the repair button is, there's now also an upgrade button. For example, you will get the normal house through the card system, but you can upgrade it to a 2-family building or even a multi-family building, and so I also added this feature for the rocket. Once you upgrade it, you advance Island's age, unlocking new buildings and upgrades for existing ones. A 2-family house might be locked at first, but you can unlock it by leveling up, similar to games like Clash of Clans. I started adding a shop. You will later be able to buy boosts or additional tiles to advance faster. You can find it by looking at the bottom right of your island, where there are 3 boats with the word shop above them. And I also added a new currency called research coins. You can earn them from buildings or by researching natural tiles. You'll be able to spend them on upgrades like stronger soldiers, more money and better boosts. The complete UI has changed as well. I moved away from using Unity's default UI buttons and replaced them with custom ones. I reorganized the layout to make it more organic and cleared up the crowded bottom right side. I also changed the break mode button to yellow, and when you click it, you get lots of visual feedback. The army button is now smaller, red, and gets a cool animated outline when clicked. Speaking of UI, there's now a completely new main menu featuring the main page, options that are partly working, credits and more. The background used to have some rings floating, but I changed it to something more relevant, a little house in the middle of the sea. From here you can enter a seat or take a random one and start playing. You can also open the setting, which currently feature music volume, full screen, FPS limit, resolution and more. I'll probably add more in the future. Before entering the game, you'll see an epilepsy warning, as well as the game's spoiler that is not finished yet, and a cool logo animation for Maxon Studios. I even added an animation when the game starts. It's kind of pointless, but I still like it. I've been getting a lot of questions about when and where the game will be released, as well as how much it will cost. I'm planning to release Isoforge on Steam, and I will try to get the Steam page up as soon as possible. For the release date, I'm not sure yet. A lot still needs to be done, such as fine-tuning stats and implementing the ability to attack enemies yourself. I'm also having performance issues. A friend of mine, the dudes, tested the game on a GTX 750 series graphics card, but I'm not very sure on that, so more testing is needed. As for pricing, I thought a long time and hard about how to monetize Isoforge, but I didn't want to include in-game purchases or ads in a PC game, so I think the best solution is to charge a small fee, somewhere between $3 and $5. In my opinion, this is a fair price, but feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. Some people have asked if it will be available on mobile. I might put it on the Android store because of the smaller fee, but that would make another challenge for a future me, so it's not planned for now. A very important feature now is that you can save your island. You heard me right. Look at this enormous file containing all relevant data. Of course, you can also load your island again, but I need to do more testing to make sure it works correctly. Speaking of testing, there's a playtest out on our Discord where everyone can try out the game completely for free. Keep in mind that the version uploaded there is full of bugs and the playtest might be closed soon because the game is getting closer to release, so be fast. But you still haven't seen any real gameplay, so here you go. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching the second devlog of Isoforge. It's been a wonderful time getting to this point. Over 300 subscribers and close to releasing my first game. I couldn't have done it without you. If you have a second to spare, please consider subscribing to my channel, maybe even giving this video a like. There's a Discord link in the description if you want more insights into the game. See you in the next devlog and a potential release.